Welcome back to 755 is Real, and welcome back to my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty. Been doing daddy duty for several weeks here. Welcome back, Eric. Good to have you, man.
Good to be back.
And it's 755 is Real, presented by Topps, by the way. We are still checking out Topps Project 70, celebrating 70 years of Topps baseball cards. I since you left, Austin Riley has only strengthened his bid for, I think when you went last time you did a show, it's kind of like, hey, look out for Austin Riley. He could creep in there. He's a legit candidate now, man. I know there are several others, and it's a wide open race this year, unlike past years where, by now last year it was Freddie or Betts. Even in a shortened season, we knew it was one of those two. Right now it's about five guys because of Tatis's injuries. He was the clear front runner, but his injury situation kind of opened it up, him and DeGrom both being hurt. I think Austin Riley is a legit candidate. If you look at the statistics and where the Braves are right now, I just wondered if Freddie's presence and Freddie having similar numbers will cause a lot of voters to back off Riley maybe when they go down to, actually rank their guys on their ballots.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. You kind of steal votes from each other, but I don't know. Tatis seems to still be. He's missed some time, but he's still raking. Every time I look on MLB Network, they're showing him hit a home run.
Yeah, that helps. His case, when they show him all the time.
Everything he does, and him and Ohtani, it's like if you check
the
MLB app, it's going to be the first highlight if they do anything. But
isn't that funny? All the East Coast bias people talked about for years. Now it's like everything you see is Tatis and Ohtani from Southern California.
Yeah, I think if Riley was a little flashier, he might get more highlights and stuff. But I like how he plays.
If you look statistically where he's at, I just broke that down this morning. Let's look at it. He, there's no debate that he's met or exceeded all expectations. I mean,
exceeded.
The Braves, this is the player the Braves hoped that he would be someday. And he's already there, and he's 24 years old.
I keep, I guess it's just the maturity, but I keep thinking he's like 25, 26, 27 now, but 24 is young. That's what most guys are breaking in at 24, 25 if they're lucky.
Back in the day, especially, or 10 years ago, you didn't see many guys breaking in at 22 like you do now. So many of them, 21, or in a few cases like, Tatis and Acuna, Soto, 20. Regardless, Riley is this year he's having is the beyond what the Braves could have hoped for, and he set himself up for a long-term future with the team at third base. But look, consider where he ranks in the NL. Tied for fifth in homers with 28. That's the same as Freddie and Joey Votto. He's fifth in batting average, which I would have never thought he was going to be a 300 hitter. He's at 303. He's just ahead of Bryce Harper, who's at 302. Riley is hitting 7 points higher than Freddie Freeman. He's eighth in RBIs with 80. That's one fewer than Tatis and 8 more than Freddie. Adam Duvall, by the way, he's one off the NL RBI lead with 88 behind his former Marlins teammate, Jesus Aguilar. Adam Duvall, man, that guy's got a nose for the RBI, as people say. I mean, he has really driven in a lot of runs considering where his average is and, as much strikes out and all that. That guy gets some big hits.
I guess that's kind of what's different in the game now. He's hitting 224.
Yeah.
When it matters. I know a lot of people don't believe in that, but it's like, some guys, same thing as like a closer. When the game gets tough or the game gets on the line, they can kick it into that extra gear focus-wise and come up big. But when a guy does it, we're in late August. When a guy does it that consistently, it's hard to deny that it exists, like a clutch gene.
Mm-hmm. He is Dansby Swanson, by the way, is just 3 RBIs behind Riley with 77. Talk about another guy that's exceeded expectations. It took a while, but he's there. He is 10th in OBP. Another one that's a shocker for me for Austin Riley, considering, the propensity he had to chase pitches out of the strike zone in the past, in his first few years in the majors. He's first couple of years, 10th in OBP at 375. That's 15 points behind Freddie, who's tied for fourth at 390. Riley is 8th in slugging percentage at 536, which is 26 points higher than Juan Soto, 28 slugging points higher than Freddie. Finally, he's ninth in OPS at 912, which is 1 spot and 4 points behind Joey Votto, who's another one who's moved into the MVP discussion because Votto has just been on fire in the second half with the power numbers. Riley at 912, he's 14 points ahead of both Freddie and Brian Reynolds in OPS. One thing besides what I said about splitting the votes and all that, one thing that might hurt Riley is I know a lot of voters really put a lot of weight behind WAR.
Yeah.
Which is difficult to justify in my opinion, because some positions I just think are favored more than others. And there's questionable defensive
like Freddie
metrics.
At first base, you're
yeah.
going to be way more value doing it as a shortstop.
You get nicked. Yeah. For a while, I wondered if we'd ever have another MVP. It was a first baseman because of how much WAR diminishes what they do, which I don't understand, but it does. So, but anyway, Riley in WAR, and according to Fangraphs WAR, is 15th among NL position players at 3.5, which is, by the way, 1 spot behind Ozzie Albies, who's at 3.6. Harper, Tatis, and Trey Turner are all tied for the NL lead in WAR with 5.1, according to Fangraphs again. Max Muncy is another guy I think really hasn't getting enough consideration right now. I think that guy's going to be in there. Max Muncy is right behind those three at 4.8 WAR, Fangraphs WAR. And again, I think he's a guy that's going to get consideration when people look at the Dodgers. Especially if the Dodgers come back and win the division, people are going to go, well, who's done it for him? And they're going to look and see there's a lot of guys, but Muncy's numbers are a little bit above everybody else's on that team.
He rakes. I mean, he's another guy that I feel like every time I watch a Dodgers game, he does something. And that was what people always said about Pedroia. Like the year he won MVP, I remember talking to Rossi about it, and Rossi was saying he just does something every game.
Yeah.
He might not lead in this WAR category or something, but if you watch the team play, he's a factor and impacts every single game in some way. And I still feel that way about Riley. It's like a big hit or one big play. For me, his defense is great. I don't know what the metrics say, but I'm losing more and more faith in those.
Yeah.
To be exact, I think there's guys that the metrics just miss on defensively, and it's a good tool, but I don't think it's like a final thing that you use to judge a guy's defense. But
yeah,
Riley, he's had big hits. I think he got the team going with that. He had that home run against St. Louis that got him either back in the game and tied it or gave him a lead.
Yeah.
But it was one of those games that you felt like they won last year and they kept losing. He got a big home run to get him back in it, but I feel like he's had a ton of big knocks and done enough to definitely get that consideration, regardless of what WAR says.
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously we've talked about analytics and how important they are, and metrics and how it's changed the game mostly for the better. But I think defensive metrics, I still think defense is the one area where scouts, players, managers, media, everybody, where the eye test is important. Because if you watch a guy every day, you watch a guy play defense, you can't look and you can't show me an analytic that's going to make me change my mind about what I'm watching. Defensive metrics is different, I think, than there's a long way to go. And I think 10 years from now, when they figure some things out with defensive metrics and they go, back in those days, we didn't have, I think they're going to say, they're going to acknowledge it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a perfect science by any stretch of the imagination. So, and they got to figure a way to give like a good first baseman more credit than just a mediocre first baseman that's over there just catching throws, Some of them do a lot more than that.
That's what's hard to measure too, is just what a difference it makes to be throwing to Freddie versus a dude that can't pick
6'5" and can stretch and do the splits and all that, and pick short hops and they arm these guys to start for double plays.
If you looked at Andrelton when he was making all his crazy plays when he was with the Braves, he just got the ball anywhere in the vicinity.
Yeah.
If he had a first baseman that couldn't pick it, how much of a difference does that make in the confidence he has to just fire it anywhere close versus feeling like he's got to make a great throw? It probably cost him 5-10 plays a year that he wouldn't have the confidence to just unleash it, because he would throw a ball that short hop Freddie by 15 feet, but he would just throw it as hard as he could, and he knew Freddie was going to pick it. So, I think value like that is really hard to gauge. And then also, instincts. Dansby made a play in Washington, first and second, 1 out. He got a ball in the hole. He knew he wasn't going to get a double play. So
Yeah.
he got the lead runner, but
Yeah.
it was a split second decision that wound up changing the whole inning and getting him out of it. When the next dude hit like a bloop single or something, the run didn't score. Something like that happened, and it was like, there's no way that's weighed into his defensive WAR.
Yeah,
That's
it
smart
can't
of a
be.
decision in a split second. So I think that it's definitely a useful tool, but for me, it's if they say Riley's not good at defense, I'm like, you're watching a different game
Yeah.
than me.
Yeah. And I mean, you just pointed out a great situation that is not accounted for in WAR. So that's a glaring weakness, a blind spot in WAR that you can't judge. What this player's got much better instincts that you can't teach than this player does. But how do you credit Swanson for making that play? What is it in metrics that you could credit him for? They got to figure out a way to do that.
And if you watch that play out, it
Yeah.
was a run saved. You could literally watch the inning and how it played out and say he actually saved the run with a decision when the ground ball was just to his left. Most shortstops get in out on that play, but if he goes to second instead of third, run scores.
And I think that goes back to that human factor, which we've always said is what metrics don't account for, is the human factor. The game's played by humans. The game's played by guys that go up to the plate with 2 runners on base and 2 out in the 9th inning. Some guys go up there and go, oh, I love this. This is great. Other guys go up there, oh shit, Jesus, and to not acknowledge that is to say that, we could all go on stage and act in Hamlet before 5,000 people at the Met or whatever,
And because we know the lines.
Right. That as long as we knew the lines, we could do it. And there would be no performance anxiety and there'd be no pressure. Right. And that's just ridiculous. Some people thrive in it. Some people don't, it's just human nature. So, and you cannot account for that with metrics.
Yeah, you can't. And I think they'd love to quantify that. I just don't think they have any way how. I think that some of those guys are smart enough, like Mark Simon that we've had on. He admitted,
he was great.
Catchers, he knows it matters, but he just doesn't have a way to quantify it, so he can't use it.
It's like chemistry. There's no way to quantify why this team is better than this one.
Yep.
If you're just looking at the numbers and you're stacking them up, going, why is this team better? This team's more talented. Look at these guys, but this team's playing better. The sum of their parts, they're better than the sum of their parts, and this team's less than the sum of their parts.
And booing their fans.
One team is the Mets, and another team is.
Stuff
oh no, we don't want to go down that road. We don't want to remind anybody that we said the Mets would find a way to Mets it up. We don't say that. Because everybody said they got a new owner. It's different now. Well, new owner can't change things overnight. I think he's going to be a good owner, but he can't come change things overnight unless you just fire everybody and hire new everything. So,
and it definitely doesn't help to have an owner tweeting about your approach at the plate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then trade for a guy like Baez to come in, and disrupt everything, whatever you did have. If Baez wanted to get angry, give a thumbs down, give it to the owner for going online and saying, we don't hit, we don't do this. Rip the owner. Yeah. You're already getting paid. What's he going to do? Fire you? You're going to get paid anyway. Rip the owner, not the fans.
Yep.
Not the guy making, 50 grand to come in and pay, and paying a lot of his salary to bring his kids to see you play. And you're getting angry at him for booing you,
Well, I think that's one of the hardest things about it too is, negativity hits players so much harder than the positivity. So when you get booed or you could, for me, it was always interesting because if I read anything about myself online when I was struggling, it would just be, I'd be getting torched. Yeah. I barely did that, but I mean, I could just check in once in a while, like, yep, everybody that's got an account on there hates me. But you running around the stadium shagging BP, it's a totally different interaction. The fans are telling you you're going to turn it around. You got this. Like, keep going. We love you. So I mean, it's hard to ignore that, but I think as a player, you got to realize that the percentage of fans booing you don't represent the whole fan base. So when you turn around and you're just booing at the fans, it's going to be, it's at the whole group of people, not the nasty ones.
Yeah, you're hurting about 80% of them that are going, oh man, is he giving us the thumbs down? Guy, we love that guy. We got his jersey on.
Yeah, I think it's a higher percentage in New York, but
and Philly, and maybe in Philly.
But it's when I saw that move, I was like, oof.
Oh, that was it. Of all the places for him to do it, there or Philly is not the place to do it. There, Citi Field. Oh my God, Shea Stadium before it. It's just.
I'm going to tune into that first at bat tonight.
Oh, you just got to wonder about a guy. I don't want to say his intelligence because he's probably a really smart guy. You got to wonder about how detached from reality a guy is when he thinks that anything positive or that he wants to happen good is going to come out of him doing that and getting his teammates like Lindor to do it. Whoever started, I'm assuming Baez was behind it, but I don't know. Maybe somebody else could have been. But for him not to understand that nothing good is going to come out of this, nothing. You're never going to win the war against the fans, the media. You're not going to do that. So
nope. I respect having the balls to do it, I guess, but yeah, but I didn't think that was going to play out very well. And I think they've already apologized today, but I mean,
it was
you can
hollow.
have little inside jokes like that and doing it, you know,
right.
to your teammates, but don't ever,
right.
If that's what it's about, I wouldn't
don't stand on first base or round the bases on a home run, then do it. And then explain afterwards why you did it. You should have just said, that's just an inside thing with the guys. The guys know what it meant. You know, that's all you have to say, like you said, but you gotta be a little more savvy than that, man. Cause you ain't winning that war.
Yeah.
They're never going to forget it.
All that drama is good news for the Braves. I know that.
Oh yeah. 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 We weren't worried about the Mets coming back against the Braves anyway for a while here. The Phillies are the team the Braves need to worry about, I think, because as we've noted, the Phillies have the softer schedule than the Braves, and the Phillies are not coming apart at the seams. I mean, they've still got they got good leadership in the front office and on the in the dugout, and they've got some players. Harper is an MVP candidate. They got some pitchers doing well. They got a good, solid lineup, as we saw when the Braves played there in that 4-game series to split with them about 3-4 weeks ago now. So I think they're going to be there till the end, but that soft schedule really helps them. And the Braves schedule, even though percentage-wise people were looking at it and going, the Braves schedule is pretty soft too. That didn't take into account just how hard the series that they had left were, because they had the 2 against the Yankees. They lost those 2. They took 2 or 3 from the Giants. Big series win there.
Yeah.
Now you got 3 in this cauldron of LA, which started last night with Smiley giving up. I mean, the worst possible way you could begin it, with him giving up 4 home runs before he got his 8th out. Yeah. And this place was 40,000 people last night, probably. They had a Betts bobblehead night. So even though it was Monday night, it was loud. And when they hit those home runs early, it got really loud. So, okay, you lost the first game. You got 2 more here. You're facing Scherzer and Bauer, and you got Scherzer and
Bueller.
Bueller. You got Scherzer, not Bauer. Scherzer and Bueller. Cy Young past and possibly Cy Young future. So you got that. Then you go from, and the one that doesn't show up when you look at they're just facing numbers. Just numbers. The Rockies show up as a team with a below 500 winning percentage. That's one of those bad teams, right? Well, they are bad on the road. But at home, the Rockies look at it are like one of the top 3 teams in the league or in the majors. They've got a great home record. So never mind what their overall record is. Matt, look at what they do at Coors Field, and that's where you got to play 4 games after you leave here.
It's always 4 games in Colorado, too.
It is.
I never understand.
Seems like it does.
Every time you get a 4-game set there, and it sucks.
Yeah.
That's the toughest place because, even if you get up to a 6-7 run lead, you never feel like the game's safe. And all of a sudden it's 6-5.
Yeah.
And it's only the 3rd inning. That's definitely not, you're right. That's something that easily gets looked over, but that's going to be a tough series.
And you use your relievers in the first or second game, and you still got 2 or 3 more games left out there. It's like, man, people, as you know, everybody thinks about the thin air and all that, but they forget how huge that park is. And there's just doubles and triples every game.
Loop singles. That's what happens there that makes it so tough to pitch is the outfielders have to play so deep because the outfield's so huge and the ball flies. It's just bloop single after bloop single after bloop single. And then somebody gets a hold of one.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Blackman hits the ball in the gap and just runs,
Yeah. You can make one bad pitch and give up 4 runs.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. So you got that one, and then it's just numbers, but the remaining series they have at San Francisco and at San Diego, the West Coast is never easy. And, you got to
always tough.
You got to come back and forth for those, you're going to be out here once for San Diego and San Francisco. It's a long trip because you got Arizona in the middle of that. So that's a grind, and you finish in San Diego.
So they do that the next trip after this one. They go home for 7 and go back on the West Coast.
Yeah.
That's hard physically.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never seen the Braves play all of those West Coast trips at the end. Their September, they have no road games in the East or Central time zone, all in Mountain and Pacific. I've never seen that before. Last 5 weeks of the season.
I don't like that.
So, I mean, they're going to have to play well. It's not a given. If they play up to their capabilities, they're going to win the division. I mean, they'll hold off the Phillies. But if they slip up at all in any of those series, because I don't know what the Padres are going to be doing by then. The Padres obviously are not what they were earlier in the year, but and you don't know if Tatis is going to stay healthy the whole time or whatever. But it's a different atmosphere in San Diego right now than it's been in the past when the Braves have gone out there. I mean, they're drawing big crowds now and all that. So
all these teams are playing for something too. It's different. Used to have those Septembers where teams were out of it and they were starting 4 guys that were in Double-A to start the year. 2 out of the 3 games. Rosters are smaller now, and most of these teams are going to be chasing something.
Good point. Only 28 people on expanded roster in September too. So you're not going to be facing these guys that teams are trying out. The teams are running guys out there just to see if they're going to be ready for next year. You're not going to be facing those guys. So,
which I like, because I used to hate it when you'd play a team and they just, throw a reliever for 1 out, throw a reliever for 1 out, throw in a reliever for 2 outs.
4-hour games.
Like 26 pitchers in the game.
Yeah, those are horrible.
Yeah,
that made no sense. It's like you play one kind of baseball for 5 months and then you play in a different game. And when you got 35 people on your roster and you got a 18-man bullpen.
Yeah.
That was stupid. I don't know why they always did that, but
glad
that's changed.
It.
Yeah. So last night in Dodger Stadium, beautiful night, by the way, about 68, 70 degrees by the middle of the game. Nice breeze. But the Braves came out here with high hopes and they still got them, but there's not much you can do to defend the home runs that Smiley gave up early because they were rockets and the Braves just watched them one after another. He gave up a solo homer in each of the first 3 innings, and then he gives up a 2-run jack in the 3rd as well. And then it was like almost over, and Seager hits that 2-run homer. The 2-run homer was on a cutter. The other 3 were on, Eric, they were 91, 92 fastballs, and they were right down the middle.
Yeah.
They didn't move.
He was trying to go inside, which, I mean, that is, I don't think the pitch call was wrong. You just have to execute the pitch because you have to pitch that team inside. But you miss middle of those bats, man. I mean, you look at that lineup. They got Will Smith hitting 8th with 20-something homers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're there to do damage. So that's a tough lineup to pitch. I don't think it's anything to feel ashamed about to have a bad start against that team. It's probably the toughest offense, either in the game, but definitely National League. But you can't throw them there to those guys. They're not coming back.
His velo's down about 3 or 4 miles an hour from earlier in the year. I mean, he was throwing, when he's got the breaking pitches that he has, secondary pitches that he has, the 94, 95 was fine, 93, 94, but now he's down 91, 92 and missing with them. So they were laying off the breaking balls and they didn't do anything against those, but they were crushing his fastballs to such an extent that he thought maybe he was tipping his pitches,
Yeah, once you go there mentally, it's a wrap.
Right.
So much less conviction when you're like, shit, does he know this is coming?
And if he's thinking that immediately after the game, he was probably thinking it during it too, right? By the 3rd inning.
For sure. Yeah, probably the second homer, a guy's just all over your fastball. And I mean, he throws a lot of off speed when they're still ready for the heater. And, there is a difference when your velo's down, when you're 90, 91 instead of 93, 94, those could be just missed pop-ups where the hitter slams his bat down. But you definitely think that when they're all over your stuff, taking tough breaking balls and hitting your fastball. And, that's almost best case scenario. And you almost have to go watch video and just come up with something.
Yeah.
Oh, I was tipping. So you can put it behind you because you don't want to take that into your next start.
Right. And see nothing and go, no, I was
absolutely not tipping. I just sucked. Yeah. You don't want to be there. So sometimes you just lie to yourself and find something in the video that's different on your breaking ball. And then you just put it behind you and go out the next time and chuck it in there.
So it's a rough night to do it. Any of these Dodger pitchers are a rough night to get off to that kind of start against. But Julio Eures last night became the first 15-game winner in the majors. He gets so overshadowed on this staff by all the other guys they have. But the guy's tough, man. He didn't give up a hit till 4th, 5th inning. Yep. Braves didn't have a base runner until the 5th inning.
Yep.
Riley had a little single. They end up getting back-to-back jacks in the 6th.
Soler and Freddie.
And Freddie, yeah. But by then they were down 5-0. You know, just they were down 5-0 after 3 innings. And Julio Eures is going to pitch with some comfort, like 5-0 lead.
Yeah.
So Smiley said, Snicker was talking about Smiley's fastball. I said the balls were down the middle. The fastball wasn't thrown that bad. It's just the location wasn't that good. I mean, unfortunately, that doesn't do you any good. Duvall also had a 2 solo homer in the 7th off a reliever.
They made a game out of it, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if
that was his 29th. 29th homer. The guy's gonna have 30 homers and 100 ribbies, man. Duvall, after getting non-tendered. Yeah, I don't think he's got to settle for $7 million this time around. So yeah, the lead's down to 3.5 games over the Phillies. And the Mets are 7 back entering their doubleheader today with the Marlins. So they're all intents and purposes, they're done because their clubhouse is everything's a mess there. So they're a shambles. Thumbs down on the Mets, man.
A few nights ago, Frenchie called it. He said, "I'm punching their ticket."
Thumbs down on the Mets. So yeah, but getting back to Smiley, he's allowed multiple homers in 6 games this year, or had before last night. Now it's 7. Trio of three homer games, three times. But last night was the first 4 homer. It matched his career high. So he's given up 7 homers in the last 2 games. Did that in about an 8-inning span. His here's a stat. Of the last 16 runs that Smiley has allowed, 13 have come via home runs. He said, I mean, those balls were middle, granted, they're in the zone, but they just came out really aggressive. It's like, it's hard to analyze it because they barely put my off-speed pitch in play. I really didn't throw many fastballs after the 2nd or 3rd inning because I realized every fastball I threw, they were on. Seager's homer was a cutter, but the other ones, it just seemed like every time I threw a fastball, they were ready for it and it didn't miss. I don't even think they hit a foul ball on a fastball, which is kind of crazy. And then every other off-speed pitch I threw, they were either missing or fouling it off or weak contact. He said, so I'm not sure. I need to watch the video. Those homers were definitely middle, but it kind of seemed like it didn't matter where I threw the fastball. They were still getting hits on it. So maybe I was tipping. And he said the Dodgers' MO in recent years has been to be patient, not chase, and make pitchers come to them, you know. And he said, but last night they were so aggressive from the jump, you know, and it was like, but I was thinking, well, yeah, but you're throwing 91, 92 down the middle. They're not going to wait, you know, and be selective. They're going to jump on that, right?
Well, I think, you know, like with hitters, they're seeing 96, 97 now from 4 out of 5 starters. They're seeing upper 90s, mid upper 90s.
So they're going to be more aggressive.
Well, they're just, it's almost 91. Like they don't need to cheat to get to 91 anymore because they're so sped up for those faster speeds. You know, they can just react. So, you know, like a lot of the smart teams, they'll come up with a plan. They'll watch the video and they'll check how often you're throwing your breaking stuff for strikes. And as a unit, they can just say, we're shutting it down on this pitch. If you see curveball, if you see changeup, don't swing, you know, because he doesn't throw it for a strike.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe they just had an approach like that, is if you see heat, or go for it. Anything else, just let it go, and you might wind up ahead in the count. But regardless, I mean, I would, if I'm him, I just lie to myself and say I was tipping. You know, come up with something and put it behind you.
The loss was the Braves' first on the road in more than a month, man. They had a franchise record 13-game road winning streak. That's pretty damn impressive. Yeah. It was the longest in a major since Cleveland won 14 straight on the road in 2017. The last road loss had been against the Mets on July 28th. I was at that game. But it shouldn't have come as a surprise that the streak was going to end at Dodger Stadium, because it has been.
That's a tough place to go.
It's been really tough for them for the past decade. The Braves were swept and outscored 23-7 the last time they were here, a 3-game series, 2019, because obviously they didn't play here last year. They've now lost 5 straight here at Dodger Stadium and 8 of their last 9. The last won a series at Dodger Stadium in 2012. And for the last 10 years, they are 11-24 at Dodger Stadium. They've lost 24 of the last 35 games here. So Tough place to play, man.
I don't remember a lot of good series there when I was with Atlanta either. I think it's just a tough place to go. And they always throw good teams out there.
Always have the pitching, man.
Yeah.
Can't forget Smiley, whether you like it smoke and mirrors or got run support or whatever, but the guy, you got to give him credit. He went 14 straight starts without a loss before Monday. I think anybody watched that game last night would have been like, really? But he did. And granted, he left so many of those games before the 6th inning, like after 4 or 5 innings. And he had a 4.7. He has a 4.75 ERA for the year now, which is not good.
It's not good, but he started off terrible.
Yes.
And it put together a pretty good stretch in the middle. So, I mean, you look at the numbers as a whole, they're not great, but he was pretty effective for a while.
Yeah. Now the question is, and I think the answer is Snit probably gives him at least one more start to show that was the last 2 have been kind of just a bad glitch for him or a bad bump in the road, but we'll see. But they sound a lot closer to being ready to use Touki Toussaint as a 6-man rotation for a couple of stretches coming up where they play like 10 games in 10 days. They have a couple of those in September. They're in one right now. So they could use Toussaint either as a 6 starter, start him in Colorado. Or, if Smiley continues to struggle, they can move Toussaint into the 5th starter role, and use Drew as a long guy, a mop-up guy or something, or whatever they want to do. But it doesn't sound like that's out of the question anymore, which I would have said you're crazy a few weeks ago, because Smiley, say what you want about him, but like you said, after the bad start, he had actually pitched well for 9 or 10 starts. He'd pitched with an ERA, closer to 3 or under. So, Touki has a 3.60 ERA in 8 games, including 7 starts. He pitched 1 inning Sunday, which served basically as getting work between starts if they want to use him again or whatever. But in that 9-0 win, but we've seen Touki have about 3 starts this year that were terrific. Some others that weren't so great, but for the most part, he looked like he's made a lot of progress this year. Is he ready for September? We'll see. Colorado, not the best place to make a start, but
I'd like to see Moeller get another couple starts in September too. I know he struggled a little bit before it went down, but I think
he's big. I think he's big in the plans next year for sure.
Yeah,
whether they use him in September or not. I think Santana, with only 2 people coming up, I think Santana's an obvious one. When his option's up after they send him down, because he's actually pitched pretty well for them.
Yeah.
And then they could if they want to bring up Arcia, they could use another bat. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough because
maybe they'd go 2 arms. I don't know.
Like in a typical September in the past, you'd call a guy like Mueller up and have him on standby for one of the starters you were unsure about. They get in trouble in the 1st or 2nd, let him try to stretch out and see if he can prove something. But yeah, I guess it's going to be tough to get him one of those starts with already 5 guys you feel pretty decent about.
Yeah, it's nice to have Touki for that too. Because Tomlin's been getting lit up. You can run Touki out there if he's rested enough. You can run him out there for 5 innings in a game if somebody gets shelled early.
It takes a different animal to do that job, though. I know Tomlin's
no doubt, but no doubt.
A lot of young starters struggle,
and that's why he's still here. Tomlin's still here because if a game gets out of hand, they can send Tomlin in there to eat up 4 or 5 innings. 3 or 4 innings.
He might give up 2, but he probably won't give up 7.
So he said Monday that Toussaint, they could add him to a 6 star. He could make a start in Colorado. We'll see. I don't know if Smiley's thing last night changed that, or if Toussaint might have a more prominent role. But I think it probably let Smiley get at least one more to show, that it's not that he's not done for the year. That he's not out of bullets completely. They're in a stretch, 4 games into a stretch of 10 games in 10 days, includes 6 more against the Dodgers and Rockies, 2 more here and then 4 in Colorado.
They get an off day when they get home, right?
After that, they've got, they had the Giants, then here without a break, and then Colorado. And then they got an off day, and then they got 6 games in 6 days against the Nationals and Marlins. They should clean up on them at home, win at least, win 5 out of 6 of those maybe. You don't ever want to
sit at home. Yeah, they get 2 off days on their homestand. That's good.
Yep. Then they have a day off before they start a stretch of 13 games in 13 days, which also includes the resumption of the suspended game at San Diego that they're going to make, that started in Atlanta, but it's going to be finished in San Diego. So 13 and a half games they're going to play in 13 days. That's going to be a rough one. That finishes September 24th at San Diego.
See, that's why I hate they gave them back-to-back off days. And, after the Yankees series, like they just burned an off day. You don't need 2 in a row. I hate when they do that with the schedule.
And then after they come home, they finish up with the Phillies and Mets, which when the schedule came out early in the year, it looked like, oh my God, that's going to be incredible that final week, which it still might with the Phillies, but I'm not expecting the Mets to be playing for anything at that point.
Mets are going to want to keep them home. I think they're going to want to send them home, so they'll play that series hard.
But yeah, to what you were saying about Smiley, he only had 5 starts, 7 total appearances in San Francisco last year, pitched 26 in the 3rd innings. He's pitched 115 and 2/3 innings so far this year. Snit last night brought up that, hey, last year didn't pitch much. It might be catching up with him, now we'll see. They were kind of worried about that. That's why they hope get him a little rest here and there, get him out after 4 or 5 innings, because he's been getting torched by the 3rd time through the lineup anyway. So, and he had the knee thing, so he missed the start, got some extra rest. The knee's not bothering him now, but it doesn't look rejuvenated. The arm doesn't look, it looks a little tired, but we'll see. He's got, they're locked in with the 4. The good thing is Ian Anderson and Huascar Noah both came back. Good. Anderson looked terrific the other day. Yeah. And Noah, I thought, looked good, even though he's giving up some runs. He's looked fresh too. His stuff's look great. Sliders look good. So you got those 2 guys, and of course Charlie and Max. So you've got 4 there that you're kind of locked in with and feeling good about where they are. Max or Charlie. Max had 2 stints on the IL. He looks fine now. He looks like he's more well rested than you might have figured he'd be this deep into this full season. And Charlie, ageless wonder. I mean, his stuff's as good now as it's been all year.
Yeah, I don't worry about Charlie. Max, I think sometimes those little injuries and little stints that set him back 10, 15 days or whatever it was, I think those are good, in a sense, because they kind of save his arm for the playoffs. After everybody having a short season last year, everybody's going to be kind of pushing their innings this year compared to what they did last year. So sometimes those little spurts on the DL, they're kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. Smiley, to your point, he was 3-7 with a 5.82 ERA and 15 homers allowed in his first 10 starts this year. And everybody's like, oh my God.
Yep.
Then he went 7-0 with a 3.45 ERA, only 8 homers allowed in the past 12 starts before Monday, which included 3 in the last start. So he went a stretch there of 9 starts where he only gave up 5 homers. For him, that's low. I mean, and like I said, he was 7-0 with a 3.45 ERA. That's good, regardless of whether he's only going 5 innings. It's good. Yeah, you'll take that any day. So, but he's only lasted 4 innings in 4 of his last 6 starts before last night. And last night he goes 4 2/3. So he's worked 5 or fewer innings, 7 of his last 9 starts, and fewer than 6 innings in 13 of the last 15. So he's making a bullpen work, but they got a good bullpen now. And like I said, they can live with him, going 5 innings if he's just not giving up 5 runs, 3 homers.
Right. So we'll see. As long as the bullpen's rolling. I mean, it's perfectly fine to have 1 or 2 guys in your rotation not going deep, but you do need a few going deep.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're getting Charlie's going deep. Max is going deep lately. Ian Anderson's looked good since he got back. He looks like he could definitely go 7 or 8 in his remaining starts, 7. So they got to feel good about where they are. And Smiley's decline is not the disaster that it would have been before, Anderson and Yanoa came back and alleviated any concerns about how sharp they would be. Been impressive what those 2 have done since they got back.
It's impressive what the team's done in the last month and a half.
Man, it can't be overstated. Yeah, by the time you were out watching this stuff from afar, but it can't be overstated what they've done, the moves Alex made to rebuild this outfield after losing Acuna, because I don't think anybody thought the Braves still had a good chance when Acuna went down. I mean, I was like, until that point, they were under 500, but I was like, they're only one good week away from taking hold of the division race. But when Acuna went down, I went, I don't know about now. I don't know how they're going to do it without going out and getting a major player, superstar, or a star type player. They didn't go out and get a star type player, but they went out and got a bunch of really good ones. Alex made some really good moves that have, I think that have even outperformed what they hoped
to do.
Right.
Honestly, I mean, 3 good at bats in your lineup all of a sudden.
Yeah. The lineup is so much deeper. I mean, Soler is a beast up there, dude. By the way, that guy in person, you've seen Soler, right?
Yeah.
He's close to Stanton-esque in size. He's only about an inch shorter than Stanton and built similar.
Well, you could tell some of the balls he hits. I mean, the one he hit, I think it was last night, looked like a pop-up.
Yeah, he's a monster. He's a big dude.
I was thinking about him. I think it made, we talk about, and that's another way you can't value players, but he had Benintendi hitting behind him in Kansas City.
Yeah.
He comes here, he's got Freddie Freeman hitting behind him. And you can't tell me that doesn't make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Alex was on Jason Starkville's podcast and talked a little bit about, people question, why'd you go and get 3 outfielders? He talked a little bit about how that happened. Cam, you want to run that little clip that he had talking about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
We got it back.
So listen, have you ever traded for 3 outfielders in one day before? And has anybody?
Yeah, and look, it wasn't by design. We were trying to do stuff a week before, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Look, I've had this happen a few times trade deadline. I really don't like doing things the last day. I don't. It's a scramble. There's a lot going on. All 30 clubs are having dialogue. You're up against the clock. You've got to get your trainers involved, doctors, and so on. It's just not a good environment to make a decision in. So, yeah, Duvall and Rosario were done earlier in the day. We almost did them in tandem at the same time. Rodriguez, we had been talking about for a while. It was start, stop. And that one came in. I mean, we agreed with basically 45 minutes to go, an hour to go. Soler was the last minute deal. Really, with 30 minutes to go, we got it back on track, and we completed that one so fast that I think our trainer was like, hey, I don't even know we got Soler. Like, it had happened right at the last minute.
So listen.
So the Soler thing happens at the last minute, and that could end up being, Duvall's probably the biggest one, but Soler could end up being huge for them. It's just an afterthought.
He's raked.
This guy hit 46 homers just a couple of years ago. People forget he led the American League.
And he has a lot better at bats than I expected.
Yeah, me too. I thought he was just going to be whiff or home run.
I expected just 1, 2, 3 see you at bats or run into a homer. Just you see a guy slugging like that, a big dude with all that power, and you hear some stuff about him, and he strikes out sometimes, and you think you're not getting the quality of bats, but yeah, he had some really good at bats where he wound up walking, and guys want to do damage and put up their numbers there, but I've been really impressed with that bats he's having too.
The walks have surprised me. He's walking almost won a game. He's walking the same number as strikeouts. So that's been impressive. And he's got some hits other than home runs too. And he's not killing you in right field. He's not going to win a Gold Glove, as they say, but he's not killing you out there. Last night, a ball fell in for a single in front of him that if he's a great right fielder, he's going to go get and catch, but he didn't go get that. But he's not hurting you out there that bad. He's certainly helping you 10 times more at the plate. Duvall has picked up right where he left off last year. He's been phenomenal. He's been really good. And a guy that, that started the whole thing was when they went out and got Jock Peterson at the break. So and Alex mentioned that on Starkville too, how the importance of doing that. He thought that was important because it sent a message to the team where he thought the conversation coming out of the All-Star break, and it was a good point by Alex. He thought that people would be going, they got that rough stretch coming out of the break. They don't have Acuna. And all of a sudden they're looking at the lineup going, oh man, we're screwed. We still got 2 or 3 weeks for the trade deadline. By then we're going to be out of it. It's not going to do anything. So Alex wanted to
send a message,
kind of nip that in the bud. Yeah. He sent a great message by getting Peterson. Like people were like, whoa, nobody was expecting it. We're coming out of the break. And Peterson has been really good. He's got a lot of energy, enthusiastic guy, got a different personality, kind of a quirky, funny guy. And he's really added to the clubhouse mix and given them a shot in the arm at the time they needed it to help them keep afloat, during that stretch where they won, lost. And then they made the 3 big moves, plus Rich Rodriguez, who's been huge for the bullpen. But Rosario is the one, though, because people haven't seen him play until the last couple of days. He's going to add something, man. He played Sunday. Sure. He's got some. He's aggressive and he's got some pop. He's still got some. He's only 29. Feels like he's been around forever, but he's another guy that gives you. All of a sudden, they got these options, kind of like Dodgers Light, where you can mix and match and put guys in and move. You got some options. You're not running a guy out there that's just hopeless against left-handers. You got options.
Just have to play them.
Right.
That's probably the biggest thing that, you know, when I look at the lineup, trying to navigate it as a pitcher, you start off, Ozzie can hurt you, Soler can hurt you, Freddie can hurt you, Riley can hurt you, and you just go down the whole thing. And it is kind of similar to how the Dodgers have a guy in the 8-hole that hits 20 homers, you know, like all the way through.
Yeah.
When they were rolling out the, you know, nothing against the guys they had before, but when they're rolling out 2 or 3 guys in a row at the bottom of the lineup, mentally, that's just a breather, knowing, you know, I might give up a single here, but if I make pitches, I'm getting outs. And now the mindset kind of changes to, if I make a mistake, I'm giving up a homer. So that you have to pitch the whole lineup a lot more careful than you did that first half of the season.
When you had Vogt and Heredia and, you know, or Alex Jackson when he was here, and the bottom, there were days where the bottom 4 spots, when you include the pitcher, were just almost automatic outs.
Yeah.
And now you've got, and now you've really don't, if you look at the lineup, most days there's not more than one guy that's maybe you could catch your breath on. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a night and day, this lineup. They're so much better. And as obviously nobody's going to replace Acuna, but like you said, I don't know that Alex makes all these moves without Acuna getting hurt. He doesn't go out and get 3 outfielders. So I think the sum of the parts is probably better. This team better, which it sounds ridiculous to say they could be better without Acuna.
So stupid, but it's not basketball. It's not, you can't, like, you don't win a championship with one player. Look at the Angels. They got Ohtani and Trout. Right. And even though Trout's hurt, they weren't doing anything with Ohtani and Trout, 2 of the best players in the game, 2 MVPs, you know, but in baseball, you have to have depth. You know, one player really can't impact the game that much.
So when you had Acuna in right field, okay, best right fielder in the game, but when you are one of the 2 or 3 best, when you have him in right field, but you've got every night in center and left, you've got a journeyman, a 4A type player, a backup type bench player in center and left. Now you don't have that. Now you've got Soler, you got Duvall, a 29 homer. It's going to be a 30 homer, 100 RBI guy. You got Soler at 46 bombs a couple of years ago. You know, you got Peterson in center, makes a terrific catch and right the other night that can, he's got power and he's a good hitter. Yeah, so you got some guys out there now, man, that
you got a squad.
Yeah. And you got Rosario, who now you add him to the mix, and all of a sudden you've got 4 or 5 outfielders, and you still got Heredia, who can be used in the right role now, you know, because he's played well this year, but he's strictly a platoon guy.
Well, there's just matchups that you'd want to avoid with him, you know, and now you have the option to do that. You throw Jock in there instead, or, you know, you have Duvall or Soler. It's just it gives Snit so many more options to fill that lineup out.
Yeah. And also it's set up where next year, when you get Acuna back, I think Duvall has played so well that I can't imagine a scenario where the Braves don't make him a good offer in the offseason, because you don't let that guy go 2 years in a row and do it again next year and risk going, well, you could go out and get Duvall. All of a sudden it becomes like when they used to trade Kelly Johnson every year. Yeah. But in this case, they're just not tendering the guy and then decide midseason, you know, he would have been worth what we get. So,
well, especially when he beat him up when he was with the Marlins, you know, coming into Truist Park and raking.
And talked about when he came back, how glad he was to be back and how much he wanted. He had hoped the Braves would have signed him last year. So I think you make him, it's a no-brainer to me. He's your left fielder next year. I'm assuming,
you don't know when you're getting Acuna back either. So
right. And I'm assuming you're not going to get Ozuna. I think they're going to cut ties with him one way or the other, but I'm just assuming he's out of the picture. If anything, if you didn't want to eat all of his contract and he had to be back, you could DH him, because I think the DH will be there next year. I think it will be. So we'll see. But I think Duvall's is your left fielder next year, and Acuna and right. And then you just got to decide on who's going to be in center. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting. All right. Well, it's going to be 2 more games here at Dodger Stadium and 4 at Coors Field. This is once more. We got a big week for the Braves because the Phillies are not far back. And if you falter and lose 4 out of 6, then they're going to be right at your heels. So,
yeah.
And these Braves don't strike me as a team that's going to do that. I think they have one bad game, one bad start, but they don't let it carry over. So I'm expecting to go out and play well tonight, you know. And you know what? They've hit Scherzer a lot better than most teams. If you look at it, I know it sounds ridiculous, but the Braves aren't scared of Scherzer because they hit Scherzer. They've handed him some of his worst games in the last 5-6 years.
It helps having seen him so much.
Yeah.
You know, they've seen him a lot. But
no fear factor at all.
I think another good thing is just this team has been here and done it. You know, they've won the division multiple times, so they're not going to feel that pressure, you know, that another team might the first time. Like if the Phillies are going to feel pressure, even if they were in first place right now, you don't know how to have that mindset of not to blow it, but to go take it. And I think the Braves know how to do that.
Yeah, the Phillies are chasing the team that's won it 3 years in a row, and Harper has been there to seeing the Braves do it year after year. So yeah, they've all seen it. And the Braves already went through the tough part where they went 100 games with everybody being skeptical and saying this team just sucks. They don't have what it takes and all that. The Braves went through all that and had the stretch that they were waiting and kept talking about having, and everybody kept poo-pooing it, but they had that stretch. And sure enough, it took them from 4 games back to, 6 or 7 ahead for second there, so.
Yeah, I got tired of saying it. I felt like a broken record saying, well, it's only 4 games. I know they're under 500, but it's only 4 games. But, I'm glad it worked out the way we thought it would.
Yeah. All right. That's it. We'll go again on early next week. We'll talk about how the rest of this trip went. What's up coming up on the homestand. Good to have you back, Eric. 755 is real. We are out.